You know, there was a time in my life when I felt like I was running full speed, but in the wrong direction. I had the energy, I had the ambition, I had the desire to do something meaningful, but I didn't know what that something was. Every morning I'd wake up, go through the motions, smile when I was supposed to smile, pretend like everything was okay. But deep down I was lost, I wasn't broken. I was just empty. You ever feel like that? Like you're living but not really alive, that was me, and then one day, everything changed, not because someone gave me a perfect roadmap or a magical formula. It changed because I hit a wall, a moment where I couldn't lie to myself anymore. You see, sometimes the greatest breakthroughs in life come wrapped in pain. Discomfort is not the enemy, it's the signal, it's the universe whispering, wake up, there's more in you. I remember sitting alone one night, lights off, just staring at the ceiling. And I asked myself a question that shifted my life forever. Not what do I want, and not what job should I do. No, the question was simple but powerful. What am I here for? Not here in this room, not here in this city. Not even here in this moment. I mean, here on this planet, in this life. That question cracked open something inside me. Because when you ask bigger questions, you get bigger answers. So I started searching. I dove into books, I talked to mentors, I sat with people who had lived through hell and came out with heaven in their hearts. I didn't just look for comfort, I looked for truth, and here's what I found. Purpose isn't something you randomly stumble into. It's not hidden under a rock or waiting in a job description. It's not out there, it's in here, inside your story, inside your pain, inside your fire. Your purpose is not what you want to get. Your purpose is what you're called to give. So I asked myself, what have I struggled with most? What have I overcome? What breaks my heart? What lights me up? And that's where I found it. My purpose wasn't in the applause. It wasn't in being successful. It was in serving people who feel the way I used to feel, stuck, uncertain, invisible, people who were tired of playing small, tired of hiding their voice, tired of living life on mute. I realized I'm not here to impress. I'm here to impact. And from that moment on, I made a decision, a real decision, not a wish, not a let's see how it goes. A decision that said, this is who I am now. I don't have to know the whole path, but I know the next step. And that's enough. Let me tell you something. When you decide who you are, you don't wait for permission. You don't need everyone to understand. You just start showing up. And the more I walked in my purpose, the louder life responded. Not because it got easier, but because I got stronger. You want to find your purpose. Stop looking for the perfect plan. Start looking for your deepest pain, and find the power in it. Look at the things you can't stop thinking about, the problems you can't ignore, the dreams that won't leave you alone. That's not random. That's your calling. Purpose isn't passive. It's a fight. A commitment, a choice you make every day. It's not the easiest path, but it's the most alive path. So if you're sitting there thinking, I don't know what my purpose is, I challenge you, get quiet, turn off the noise. Look in the mirror and ask yourself the real questions. What am I running from? What am I here to heal? Who needs me to show up? Because someone out there is waiting for you. Yes, you. To stop doubting and start deciding. Your story, your scars, your struggles, they're not holding you back. They are the very thing that will lead you forward. Your past wasn't a punishment. It was preparation. I found my purpose not by chasing success, but by serving something greater than myself. By making my life about more than just me. When you shift from how can I get more to how can I give more, everything changes. Your purpose is not just what you do, it's how you live. It's the way you love, the way you lead, the way you lift others up when you rise, and you don't need to wait for permission. You don't need to wait to feel ready. You don't need a perfect resume or the right degree or the perfect conditions. What you need is courage, courage to begin, courage to believe, courage to become who you were always meant to be. Let me tell you one last thing. You already have what it takes. You are not too late. You are not too broken. You are not too lost. You are exactly where you need to be to begin. Your life is a message. Make it a message worth hearing, because when you find your purpose, life doesn't get easier, but it gets worth it. So go out there, speak your truth, share your light, live your mission, and remember, the world doesn't need more perfection. It needs more people on fire with purpose. Your greatest pain often reveals your deepest purpose. It's strange how life works, how the things that once made you feel weak, broken, or ashamed can later become the very foundation of your strength. The moments that crushed you, the nights you cried silently, the battles you fought with no one watching, those weren't just hardships, they were shaping something inside you. We're taught to hide our pain, to pretend we're okay, to push it down and move on. But what if pain isn't something to escape? What if it's the door you've been avoiding, the key that unlocks what you're truly meant for? When you look at the people who create real impact in the world, you'll notice something. They didn't come from perfect lives, they didn't grow strong because life was easy, they found their calling through struggle, they connected to others because they knew what suffering felt like, and they built their mission around healing what they once thought would destroy them. There's power in that, there's redemption in that, because when you choose to turn your pain into purpose, you stop being a victim of your story. You become the author of it. Maybe you felt abandoned. Maybe you failed publicly. Maybe you grew up feeling invisible. Maybe someone betrayed you, broke you, told you that you'd never be enough. Those moments hurt, but they also gave you empathy, awareness, depth. They taught you things a textbook never could. They gave you insight into emotions others don't even know how to describe, and that's where your purpose begins. Not in avoiding your past, but in owning it, in realizing that what hurt you gave you a message to carry, a light to shine for someone else still stuck in the dark. Think about it. Who better to help the broken than someone who's been there? Who better to guide others through grief than someone who's crawled through it and came out stronger? You don't need to be perfect to be useful. You need to be real. You need to be willing to feel again, to revisit what you once buried, to mine the gold out of your own wounds, because someone out there is where you once were. They're drowning in something you barely survived. They're praying for someone to show them the way, and your pain, that's the compass, that's the map, that's the proof that healing is possible, but it only works if you stop hiding. If you stop pretending it didn't matter, if you stop waiting for life to make sense and start using your story with intention. Purpose is personal. It doesn't come from chasing trends or copying others. It comes from a deep, undeniable knowing that what you went through wasn't for nothing. That every tear, every scar, every silent breakdown gave you something. Wisdom, perspective, compassion, courage. And now it's your responsibility to use it, not just for yourself, but for the world that needs what only you can give, because nobody else has your exact story. Nobody else lived your specific combination of trials and truths. And that's your advantage, that's your edge, that's your fingerprint of impact waiting to be left on the world. Purpose isn't something you find, it's something you decide. Most people spend their whole lives searching for purpose like it's some treasure buried under years of routines, jobs, and obligations. They wait for a sign, a calling, a lightning bolt moment where everything suddenly makes sense. But what if it's not out there to be found? What if it's something you choose, something you commit to with intention and clarity? The truth is, waiting for purpose keeps people stuck. They drift from job to job, relationship to relationship, chasing fulfillment, hoping that someday it will just click. But purpose doesn't show up for people who wait. It reveals itself to those who act, those who declare, those who decide to make their life about something greater than survival. When you decide your purpose, you shift from passive to powerful. You take ownership of your story instead of letting circumstances write it for you. Purpose doesn't always come with a grand vision or a perfect plan. It often starts as a whisper, a gut feeling, a quiet but consistent pull towards something that matters. And once you recognize it, it's not about whether or not you feel ready. It's about choosing to move. You create your purpose by deciding what kind of person you want to become, what kind of legacy you want to leave, what values you refuse to compromise on no matter what. That decision changes everything. It influences how you show up every day. It shapes the way you speak, the way you lead, the way you connect. It's not based on what the world thinks you should be doing. It's based on what makes your heart beat louder, what keeps you up at night, what gets you emotional when no one's watching. The moment you stop waiting and start deciding is the moment your life becomes aligned. You're no longer chasing validation because your direction comes from within, not from applause or acceptance. People who live with purpose aren't necessarily more talented or more lucky. They're just more certain. They made a decision and followed through. They stopped waiting for clarity and created it. They said, "This is what I stand for. This is who I help. This is the difference I want to make." And then they backed it up with consistent, intentional action. Every step they take, even the small ones, builds something bigger. It builds meaning, momentum, and impact, because purpose doesn't live in a single big moment. It's built in the daily decisions, the way you show up when no one's watching, the way you keep going when it's uncomfortable or inconvenient. And here's what most people miss: your purpose isn't about what's perfect. It's about what's real. It can change, it can evolve. What matters is the commitment to serve, to grow, to lead a life that matters. You don't need a perfect mission statement. You need a reason to keep going when it would be easier to quit. A reason that pulls you out of bed when the world feels heavy. A reason that connects your struggles to someone else's solution. That reason, that's your decision. That's your purpose, not something you hope to find. Something you declare with every breath, every word, every choice you make from here on out. Clarity comes from action, not overthinking. So many people sit still, paralyzed by the fear of making the wrong move, trapped in analysis, waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect answer. But life doesn't reward hesitation, it rewards motion. You can read every book, listen to every podcast, talk to every mentor, but until you take a step, nothing changes. Thinking without action becomes a loop, a trap disguised as preparation. You convince yourself you're making progress, but really, you're just circling the same doubts, the same what-ifs, the same fears, wearing different masks. When you move, even in uncertainty, you open doors that didn't exist before. You learn by doing, by failing, by adjusting. You don't need to know all the steps. You need to take the first one. The truth is, clarity is not a destination you arrive at through contemplation. It's something that unfolds through movement. The path doesn't appear, and then you walk it. You walk it, and the path appears. The next step is always waiting on the other side of this one. The people who get clarity are the ones willing to look foolish, to try something imperfect, to show up before they feel ready. You don't find your calling by waiting for lightning. You find it by trying, experimenting, saying yes to things that stretch you. You might hate it, you might fail, but in that process you get closer. You learn what you love, what drains you, what fires you up, what you never want to do again. Action gives you feedback. Action gives you experience. Action teaches you what no amount of thinking ever will. Because you can't predict passion, you discover it. And you discover it by engaging with life, not hiding from it. Overthinking convinces you that you're stuck when you're just scared. It tells you you need more time, more information, more certainty. But confidence doesn't come from more thinking. It comes from more doing, from being in the arena, from making the call, from starting the project, from speaking up when your voice shakes. You grow not by finding the perfect answer, but by becoming the person who can handle whatever answer comes. So many wait for clarity before committing, but commitment creates clarity. You choose something, you give it your all, and you find out who you are in the process. That's how you gain direction. That's how you build purpose, not by watching from the sidelines, but by stepping into the game. By falling, rising, adjusting, and continuing, every time you take action, you gain insight. Every time you risk being seen, you become more of yourself. The people who make the greatest impact don't have all the answers. They just had the courage to move anyway. You don't need a 10-year plan. You need a today plan. One step, one bold move, one decision to trust yourself a little more. Stop waiting to feel clear before you act. Start acting, and clarity will follow. The longer you wait, the louder the doubts get. The moment you move, momentum begins. Even a small step forward is more powerful than the most brilliant idea kept in your head. Don't let your mind talk you out of the life your heart knows you're meant to live. Get in motion. Let the world respond. Let your life speak through your actions. You don't need to be perfect to be impactful. You need to be authentic. There's a lie that creeps into the minds of so many people, a belief that they have to fix everything, know everything, and have it all together before they can make a difference. They think they need the perfect words, the perfect image, the perfect timing, the perfect platform, so they wait, they hide, they shrink themselves down thinking someone better, smarter, more experienced will do it instead. But the truth is, people don't connect with perfection. They connect with realness, with someone who has lived through the storm and is still standing. The most powerful impact you can make doesn't come from trying to impress. It comes from choosing to be real, real about your story, real about your scars, real about your lessons. When you show up with your truth, without filters, without masks, you give other people permission to do the same. That's what changes lives. That's what builds movements. That's what creates legacy. Not a flawless presentation, but a fearless presence. You can study every strategy, learn every tactic, perfect every piece of content, but if people can't feel you, they won't follow you. Authenticity is the new currency. It's the rawness in your voice when you speak about something that matters. It's the crack in your tone when you talk about what hurt. It's the fire in your words when you speak about what healed you. That is where the power lies. Not in the polished version of you, but in the honest one. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to be a few steps ahead and willing to reach back. Impact is about showing people what's possible, not because you're perfect, but because you're in motion, because you're willing to be seen, because you're living what you teach. When you're authentic, people don't just hear your words, they feel your intention. They trust you not because you're flawless, but because you're consistent, honest, and human. Every great leader, every great teacher, every great voice that changed the world started with one thing: the courage to show up as they were. They didn't wait to become perfect. They spoke through their process. They shared the messy middle. They let people witness their evolution. And in doing so, they became proof that transformation is possible. Your voice matters, not when it's polished, but when it's present. Your story matters, not when it's edited, but when it's honest. The impact you want to create is already inside you, waiting to be unlocked by your willingness to be seen. You don't need a bigger platform. You need a bolder presence. You don't need a flawless plan. You need a fearless heart. The world isn't waiting for someone perfect. It's waiting for someone real. Being authentic doesn't mean you have to share everything. It means you show up without pretending. It means you speak from experience, lead from empathy, and stay rooted in your truth. People crave connection more than perfection. They want to see someone who looks like them, feels like them, struggles like them, and still chooses to rise. That's where your true impact begins. In the moments you decide your story is enough, your voice is enough, your heart is enough. Not someday, not when it's easier, not when it's shinier, but now. Just as you are, the life you're meant to live begins the moment you stop waiting and start creating. Too many people live on pause, waiting for the right time, the right feeling, the right opportunity. They wait for permission, for clarity, for confidence. They convince themselves they're not ready yet, that someday things will feel different, that one day the stars will align and they'll finally be able to go all in. But that day never comes unless you decide it does. Life doesn't reward waiting. It rewards boldness. It rewards those who take the raw material of uncertainty and shape it into something meaningful with their own hands. Creation is the antidote to fear. It's in the doing, the building, the speaking, the writing, the showing up that your life starts to take form. Not in the planning, not in the worrying, not in the perfect scenario you play out in your head. There is no perfect time. There is no ideal condition. There is only now, this moment, this breath, this choice, and what you do with it becomes the foundation of the life you've been imagining. The people who create the life they were meant for aren't the ones with the best resources. They're the ones with the most relentless mindset. They don't wait to be chosen. They choose themselves. They don't wait for certainty. They move with conviction. They don't wait until it's easy. They show up when it's hard. Creation isn't about being the most talented or the most gifted. It's about being the most committed. Committed to the idea that your life has value, that your time here matters, that what you build with your days will echo long after you're gone. You are not here to just react to life. You are here to design it, to craft it, to take responsibility for the direction you go, even if no one else understands it. The moment you stop waiting, you reclaim your power. You're no longer at the mercy of circumstances. You become the creator of new outcomes, the initiator of new chapters, the spark for something that didn't exist before you decided to start. And yes, it will be messy. Yes, it will be uncomfortable. Yes, there will be doubts, delays, and disappointments. But every time you take one more step, you get closer to the version of yourself that already lives inside you, the one with courage in their chest and purpose in their hands. You don't need the world to believe in you. You need to believe enough to begin, to show up before it's polished, to act before it's guaranteed, to keep building even when no one's clapping. Every masterpiece begins as a rough sketch. Every movement begins as a quiet idea. Every transformation begins as a decision, and every creator begins as a beginner who chose to start instead of wait. When you begin to create, you step into alignment with the life you were designed to live. You feel energy again, fire again. You wake up with hunger, with focus, with the kind of momentum that doesn't come from consuming more, but from contributing more. Creating your life doesn't mean you control every outcome. It means you stop handing over the pen and start writing your own pages. It means you stop asking for directions and start trusting your inner compass. It means you stop blaming the past and start building the future. The life you're meant to live isn't hiding from you. It's waiting for you to show up, not as a spectator, but as the one who dares to begin where they are, with what they have, and a belief that it all means something.